Hello. This is going to be kind of a week one review. So I'm going to separate it into two videos. One, and this is going to be for kind of most weeks now, is that I will have one video where I explain like what we did this week, and then I'll have a separate video that goes more in depth on how to make our turn-based game. That second video is going to probably be longer most weeks, just because there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So, um, first of all, I just wanted to review a couple of things. Um, the main thing is, or the first thing is academic integrity. Um, so we want to make sure that you aren't just copying and pasting our code. This means that we really want you to manually transcribe the code, but not the comments, so that we can see kind of, oh, you've done this, but you didn't just copy and paste it. Um, and then you can also look at the provided code and try typing it out by yourself line point by line, but you cannot copy and paste it or download the file and reuse it, that type of stuff. We really want you to type it out because as time continues, we'll be going into more advanced topics. And with those topics, you need to understand it. Those topics, and typing them out really does help with that. So again, you can look at the code and transcribe it. You can manually type the code. You cannot copy it. You cannot download the files. You cannot do that stuff. Um, what else? Yeah, that's the main kind of gist of it. If you have any questions or clarifying or any clarification, I'll always ask Rick's kind of how you want to do it. So with that, I want to kind of review what we've done these past few weeks, and kind of just go from the start. So we have our index.html file, and this is where we run um, our current scene, where we have the bat attack, and then we have the bats and all that stuff. So the way we do it is obviously we have to look into our files and show that. But what we need to do now is all we have to do is set our engine.current scene equal to our main scene, and then we got an engine.start. So let's look at engine and kind of see what's happening in there. Well, inside of engine, we have a current scene, we have a canvas, we have a CTX, and we have a last timestamp. So when we call start, what happens is we set our canvas and CTX to variables so that we can reference, and then we add some event listeners. And these event listeners help us track input. So when we do when key down is pressed, what it does, it says, hey, key down is pressed. We need to go to this function input, called the key down. And then we look at it and then we do whatever this says. Same thing for key up. When a key is released or it goes up, it goes to input.keyup and it does whatever this is. And then after we set this up, since they're event listeners, whenever they happen, they will be tracked and kept track of. And then we do start our engine.game loop. Our game loop goes as follows. We first need to see if there's a time, or we can even just skip that. What we always do in our game loop is the core feature of update, draw, and then request the next frame for updating and draw. So the way we do this is by calling engine.update, which just goes to our current scene and updates everything. And then engine.draw is the same thing, except we need to make sure that our canvas height and width are the correct height and width. With our engine.time, what happens is, say you have a game and you have you're using your, what is it, 5080 is out now? So you're using your 5080 or 5090, and you are playing Roblox or Minecraft. You don't want that person who's using a such powerful computer to move or have any advantage. So what we do is we use this variable called timestamp last timestamp, And what this does is we're able to scale the frame based on how small the time gap is. So we track this time variable, which it starts off at 0, and we say, okay, we have some sort of time variable. We then need to get the difference in time between this current frame and last frame. We need to divide it by 1,000 to get seconds. And then we can set our time.delta time to that. So say you get one frame or one frame every 60 seconds versus one frame over 20 seconds. The 20 seconds will have a smaller value so that, say, for example, when we do our component and we times it, it will make our velocity smaller, our time.delta time smaller, so it'll make this overall smaller. But since it's smaller, it will adjust to be the same as the other person. So this is really important conceptually because we want to make sure everyone has the equal playing field with our game, especially when we get to physics and that stuff, because different frame rates can heavily make physics good or bad. Yep, and then we update draw, and then let's look at our current scene. So let's look at our scene game object. Inside of our scene game object, all we do is loop through both the update and draw, and we update and draw on the game object, which then just updates and draw on the component side. So that's like the overall hierarchy. One thing we also did learn this week is anonymous game objects. When we look at our main scene, we have obviously if we don't want to make a whole new game object prefab if we're only using it once. So what we can do is we can manually create an empty game object and assign it a component, um, like a text label or something, so we don't have to create those prefabs and that stuff in order to keep everything organized and stuff. So say I wanted to now make a new one that is, all I have to do is I can copy and paste the above text, change it to like 800, 800, and we can say the bat has attacked. Um, oh, and then make sure you adjust this. Yep, and now we have it on the bottom saying the bat has attacked. So this is just a very quick way to do simple stuff like text or maybe like a vase or like some kind of just pure aesthetic game object. Um, yeah, but say we want to make a new fancier game object. What you want to do is you want to go and create a new file. You want to do, let's do a square game object.js. You have to do a class square game object extends game object. You would have to have a constructor and you would have to have a start. Oh, sorry, super inside of the constructor. So now if we look at this, you see how it's similar, same. Now we want to make a polygon component. So what we want to do this dot add component, new polygon, and we want to do a comma space and we want to make a points call. And what you can always reference your stuff that has already done. So we see how we have the brackets and then, yep, we have the points and then we have a list of points. So what we can do now is we can do a new vector2 and it could be at 0, 0. And then we need to shift down 4 times and make sure we do the commas. And it could be 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. And that may be all we want. So we need to go back to our index. We need to go back to here. We do that. And we do square game object. And we haven't instantiated anything yet, so now we need to go back to our main scene, and we need to do this dot instantiate new square game object at a position of, and let's do 1000 comma 200. That might be too far. All right, so now we can go over debugging now. So what we can do is we can go into inspect sources, and the first thing we can look at is if we go to our game and main scene, we can go into there and we can see if it's happening. Yep, so it's being ran. So now if we go to this, we have 4 game objects. They have a transform and a polygon. Let's look at our position, and this is it's at 100, 200. So then we go back to our square game object. Uh, um, oh, we haven't done that, so let's do 100. I think that's our issue. Yep. So, yep, now we have it. I just was thinking of the wrong point style. But yep, so now we have a black square going up, and now say we want to adjust other variables to it, we can go and look into our polygon component, and let's say instead of a fill style of black, we want to do a fill style of green. And now we have that fill style of green. And then let's just review polygons and texts again. So when we look at our polygon, how we adjusted some stuff inside of our game object, or yeah. So inside of our game object.js, now we have this add component where we can just get a blank value or an array of values that now can be, or dictionary actually, but like values that can be now put into to do a specific stuff for each instance. So say we wanted square to be 2 components. Well, that's not the best use case. Let's think. Yeah, let's do this. Inside of main scene, we have this. Say we wanted actually this to have another text component. We could have this be in here, and it could be just a bunch. Well, that's not really a good use case. But what this does is it allows us to have components that have variables that can be adjusted on a instantiating a component basis. So now instead of having a component where the bat symbol component is green or blue or that, you can just have a general kind of bat symbol component that's just put the polygon component to explore your or to create anything that you would need to draw, like your circles or your squares, rectangles, triangles, or any other sprites, or simple shapes, technically. So kind of just a quick overview of everything. Inside of our index, we establish what scene we want to. Oh, another thing you can do is say you wanted to make a new scene. So let's say we wanted to make a test scene.js. You would have a class test scene extends scene. You would have a constructor and you would have a super call. And then say in this scene, we just wanted the triangle game object. We just wanted the triangle game object, and let's do like, say we wanted 3 of them actually. So let's do this, that, and let's do what? 600, 300, and 900. Well, in order to change which scene we're going to, we have to go into here, and we have to change it to test scene. And we also need to add our scene. So we can do that, and then test scene. And now you see we have our specific ones that go in this pattern. So that's how you also add a new scene and change it up a little bit to kind of what you want. So, well, how will you go through with everything again? We first set our current scene, and then we start our engine. Inside of our engine, we always call the start function, which will be expanded upon later. But then inside of start, we set up like inputs and then our context and canvas, and then we do our game loop where we get the difference in time between each frame and seconds. This is a good way to scale movement and that stuff. And then we update and draw, which goes down to then to where we then update the scene, which the scene then updates all of the game objects, and the game objects update all the components. And this also is the same with draw, where the scene draws everything in all the game objects. The game objects draw the components, and then that's kind of where we actually can see stuff because of the polygon and text component. Overall, I hope this was a good review. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always email me or Rick's at any time or speak to us after class, before or after class.